Welcome classic rock fans, and today we're going to look at 10 artists, or brands as I prefer to call them, that should really be retired. If you're new to this channel, please be sure to click like, subscribe and check that notification bell, and check some of the links below the video for ways you can support the sterling work done at Classic Album Review. It's always much appreciated. And do stick around to the end for some dishonourable mentions. So this video is not meant to be divisive, it's meant to be a discussion point really. And that discussion really starts at me asking you is, the next time you sell a kidney to go to some fancy corporate sponsored light extravaganza, cunningly masquerading as a rock and roll show, ask yourself if you think that the band you're paying to see envisaged this for themselves when they started out, or even when rock and roll was in its infancy. These shows have gotten bigger, more extravagant, more expensive as well, and Tickbastard looked to suck on the teat, that is the cash cow of nostalgia. And often with age, the set list is shortened as well, and they fill in the void by chucking in a few big-name support bands. But as the set list becomes shorter, it becomes more staid and more predictable as they feel they're obliged to play the hits or the songs that the audiences expect them to play. But of course, it's not up to me to tell anyone what they should do or should go to. That's not the purpose of this video. It's really a discussion point, as I've said. But I have to say, some of these bands, it's like watching some embarrassing dotty old aunt go out there all fur-coated and no knickers. Number 10 for me is Grand Funk. Rolling Stone, David Frick of Rolling Stone once said, you cannot talk about rock in the 70s without talking about this band. And my God, how right he is. But what the real tragedy is here is you've got Don Brewer and Mel, of course, who have their tribute to Grand Funk with the excellent Bruce Kulick on guitar. But nevertheless, most of us feel that it's not really this band. This band is as much Mark Farner as it is these guys. And the tragedy is that they're all playing so beautifully and brilliantly. Imagine those three together again. I mean, they're essentially a three-piece band. Well, they did become a four-piece band. They got in that guy on keyboards, Craig, I can't remember the name now. But essentially a three-piece, I guess. And Mark Farner looks great, and he sounds great as well. Can you imagine those guys getting back together, burying the hatchet rather than wielding it? Now this is a case in point where you've got an aged band that can still perform well. But in their current incarnation, I wish Grand Funk would just go away, quite frankly. Number 9 is The Who. This is one of the most powerful live bands you could have seen back in the day. But they really should have hung up their boots when John Entwistle died, quite frankly. And now they just look too old, really, to be on that stage and performing as The Who, so to speak. Number 8 for me is ACDC. We've got to ask ourselves, how much longer are we willing to pay top dollar to see a 70-year-old man in a school uniform? Well, actually, I'm up for it, to be honest with you, but nevertheless, that's not the point why I think ACDC are on this list. The problem I have with ACDC is the vocals. Brian Johnson, I think, was an incredible singer when he was with Geordie, and even when he was with ACDC, you listen to Back in Black and those early albums, there was variation and nuance to his voice. But these days, I think it just sounds strained. It's like listening to a dentist drill for an hour and a half. And also, I think with the death of Malcolm Young, that was a good watershed moment for them to shut it down rather than power up. Number 7 for me is Jethro Tull. I'm a huge Jethro Tull fan, as you well know. However, I just think it is Anderson is going out under the brand of Jethro Tull. More or less the implicit message being that I am Jethro Tull. Well, I don't think any of us have any problem with that, really. Most of us understand that he is the writer and perhaps the main impetus behind this band, always perhaps has been. And that's not to do down the contributions some fantastic musicians have made to this band and the sound of this band. My problem is Ian Anderson vocally just cannot do it anymore. It's his voice has become a kind of a tuneful talking. Now, he's a writer and a singer, and I have no issue with him doing solo records, and doing them beautifully, no doubt. But it's when you go out on the road as Jethro Tull and you try to perform this classic back catalogue, which you just can't sing anymore, it becomes extremely painful to watch him gasping and straining to reach notes that are just no longer there. Or perhaps the songs are rearranged to the extent that they sound like a tuneless dirge. Go and listen to his recent rendition of Black Sunday live, you'll see what I mean. Number 6 is Fleetwood Mac. Well, in all fairness, I think they have retired anyway. Mick Fleetwood has come out and said that with the death of Christine McVie that the band are more or less done. I would quite frankly say this band were done when they got rid of Lindsey Buckingham. That's when they should have called it a day, quite frankly. And I've heard stories of them on stage and lots of backing musicians behind the curtain. I don't know if that's true or not, but if that is true, it all seems a little bit dishonest to me, and they should have stopped. Number 5 is Kiss. Of course, Kiss are on the End of the Road tour, but it's turning out to be a bloody long road, isn't it? And they are a band that have been caught with their pants down, really using certain embellishments, especially after Gene Simmons made a big thing of stating that they don't do that. That's even more problematic for them. But also, I think the whole makeup shtick, which was great in the 70s, was great when they did the reunion tour, but now they're just looking way too old to be doing it, quite frankly. Number 4 is the Eagles, Don Henley's touring corporation and brand, that is the Eagles. This band finished, I think, for me when Glenn Frey passed. I think going out as Don Henley's Eagles, really, it just begins to feel a little bit like a tribute band, yet still paying a hell of a lot of money to go and see them. Not doing down the Schmidt and Joe Walsh, of course, who are just paid as probably jobbing musicians with this band, the way the politics seem to work. But without doubt, you pay money to see the Eagles, you'll get a beautifully executed show, which will sound fantastic. But to what extent is it really the Eagles, do you think? For me, the way this band could have been salvaged after the passing of Glenn Frey would have been to bring Don Felder back into the fold. But my God, they weren't going to do that, were they? Number 3 is Motley Crew. I mean, my God, what a Motley Crew indeed. This band did all that sort of showman shtick, didn't they? And they signed those contracts. This is the end of the band. And we all bought it. Ever get a feeling of being hoodwinked? Interestingly, drummer Tommy Lee has come out and said, oh, the reason we came out and did it again is that we were offered a stadium tour, which we'd never gotten to do in our career, and we just couldn't pass it up. What a load of bollocks. Number 2 is the Rolling Stones. There was a time there was something edgy about this band, something dangerous about them. I mean, I saw them as recently as the Bridges to Babylon tour, but even then, there was a palpable sense of unease and menace and edge to them before they came out on the stage. There was just this huge cloud of marijuana smoke above the audience as well. What a fantastic show that was. These days, the Rolling Stones concert is a bit like a corporate picnic, isn't it? The setlist is just dull, staid and uninspired, hasn't changed for 20-odd years. So I envisaged the Stones digging much deeper into their back catalogue. They've just celebrated the 50th anniversary of Exile on Main Street, but performed nothing from that album in their recent 60s shows. Well, they do Tumbling Dice, of course, but then they do that every show. And number 1 for me is the Beach Boys, which consists of really Mike Love and Bruce Johnston, who are the only members that go back to the 60s in this band, Mike Love being the only original member. Does anyone really feel that they're seeing the Beach Boys when they see these guys? I just don't think so. And it seems they'll be at the opening of an envelope these days. You'll find them playing your local park or whatever. Now, interestingly, it's all about how something is sold. Now, if the Beach Boys were to do something for the 60th anniversary of this band and involved all those members coming together to reminisce and celebrate this music in that spirit, I think that would be okay. I'd be interested in seeing that. But this incarnation of the Beach Boys is just a big no thank you from me. So let's think about a few dishonourable mentions, bands that I think should call it a day. Definitely Roger Waters, I think, especially as he's been found to be using backing tapes to sing, and he can't sing those songs anymore. If you can't sing Have a Cigar, don't sing Have a Cigar, quite frankly. Bob Dylan is another one, really, who doesn't sing anymore, he just recites. Also, I have a lot of respect for Steve Hackett. He's 73 now, and he performs beautifully, and he performs this music live and effectively. It's just absolutely fantastic, so I have no issue with that at all. But he goes out as Steve Hackett, plays the music of Genesis, and he gets to play solo stuff as well, which I also enjoy. I think if Steve Howe was to do the same, really, Steve Howe plays the music of Yes, with lots of musicians around him. I think I'd be more interested in that than the touring brand that is the current Yes lineup. So there you are, that's my list of 10 bands that I think should retire. If you've watched this video to this point without switching off, I thank you for doing that, and hope that you are staying well, safe, more importantly that you keep listening.